Time for a little Hawk talk. Andrew Hawkins has an opinion that we all want to hear. That is a good picture. Take it.
A lot less wrinkles back there. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get to the playoffs and win a playoff game for the first time in a long time because they have Aaron Rodgers. We've heard Aaron Rodgers talk about his mindset going to what he thinks is going to be his last season. I think this situation in Pittsburgh is actually the situation we thought he was walking into with the Jets, where he doesn't have to be his all-star self to make this team better. We've seen Mike Tomlin do this with quarterbacks who are much less what Aaron Rodgers has at 42 years old.
You buy it?
Yeah, I'm definitely buying. The one difference between this situation that's a little worse than the Jets situation is this division is going to be a little bit more consistently tough. And I think that the point that you're making is right, Hog, is that if the Jets wanted so much from Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers aren't asking a whole lot from him. They may ask him to work his magic in late game situations occasionally, but most of it is like, hey, be smart with the football. We're going to keep you in the game. You're going to be safe, and you can use your talents. Because we saw in certain situations last year, the arm isn't gone. Like Aaron Rodgers still
very un-Steeler-like. They traded for DK Metcalf. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. They traded for Jonnu Smith. They signed Aaron Rodgers. They did a lot of things that Steeler teams in the past wouldn't have done. They've never been one of the most aggressive teams in the league. They have relied on drafting their players, developing them, leaning on the values of being a Pittsburgh Steeler. This was not your Pittsburgh Steelers father's offseason. They broke the mold and acted in ways that this team hasn't. They recognized that they had lost 6 straight playoff games, and it was time to try to do something different. This was a radical departure from what they've done in other offseasons.
It's an important point for all the Steeler fans who were saying we need to do something different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. I think a lot of them, from the sense I get externally, was they thought they needed to make a change in the coach. I think that they did the right thing by keeping the coach because he's a great coach and changing around the philosophy because the philosophy had gotten stale. And by the way, as to the division, I understand why you say that. The Ravens are really good, but the Bengals' best defensive player just drove home to Jacksonville. Don't know where he is. The Browns we're talking about them like they may have the first pick in the draft next year. The NFC North, NFC East, AFC West, I think are all better divisions. I think the Steelers, as they were a year ago, and they surprised people by doing it, will be right there to the finish in that division.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I would say the one thing that they aren't doing that's unusual in mold breaking is they are paying, you brought up Trey Hendrickson, they're paying their older defensive end because they are serious about making some sort of run. To your point, everything, all the decisions that were made were different, but they were aligned. They were consistent with what it appeared that they wanted to do. The Bengals, those decisions don't seem consistent with like signing T. Higgins. That seems consistent with, all right, we're making a run with this core that we have. Not signing Trey Hendrickson or Shamar Stewart is not consistent. So I think in that division, they can feel comfortable that they're at least run better than the Bengals, the Steelers.
So on the bases, we'll stay in Pittsburgh to start it. We got Aaron Rodgers, a new Cowboys training camp. Micah Parsons in camp, still no contract extension. Jerry Jones put on a clinic yesterday at the preseason press conference, just saying so many interesting things. He gave this very surprising answer about the idea of himself being less involved. Let's listen to this.
Stepping away as general manager never been even a momentary consideration for you?
Yes. Momentary.
How long a moment?
Now, we're getting down to it. Small fractions of seconds, I promise you that. So if you think a little bit of what you write is going to deter me from sitting up here doing what I want to do, you're wrong. It's just not going to do it. Because I've danced with the devil, the financial devil, and lived to tell about it. And so that resolve is there with me as well.
Okay, so you have sat in a closed room and negotiated with that man, right? I mean, that was your life at one time.
Instead of Dan.
What's that? I mean, so interpret that for us.
I can't read the man's mind. So, I mean, I think I made the point earlier that he thoroughly enjoys this. Like, this is what Jerry Jones seems to live for at this point. I don't know what he's talking about. I try not to do anything with the devil, let alone dance with him. Right. If Jerry did, I would be scared of him too. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
While we were doing that, Shefty had stepped away and just came back and said,
it's interesting. I mean, we said this before, that the Cowboys move very slowly, glacially with these things. They have yet to submit a contract proposal to Mike Parsons. Nothing. For all the talk that we've had about the Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons, his contract, how close they are, how close they aren't, there hasn't been an offer yet. So that tells you where they are right now. Not very close.
Does that mean that they're not like close in the conversations, and it's not, the conversations don't matter until you submit an actual proposal?
We can look at it that way. I think that if talks are heating up, if they're serious, there are proposals. Like, here's what we're thinking. Then maybe, hey, we'd like to keep you. Great, we'd like to keep you. Okay, you've had contract negotiations. You've had contract negotiations. I mean, if nobody's submitted an offer, where does that?
Those aren't really negotiations.
Yeah.
They're just ideas. Yeah. I mean, in order for this to happen, what you're saying is that the first step on this journey, if a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a first step, the first step hasn't even been taken.
Correct.
I feel like this goes back to, I'm just thinking back a few months ago, it feels to me like Jerry Jones thought he had something working with Micah Parsons, and then the agent was sort of getting cut out of the whole thing, and then that's when he came back with, I don't even know who the agent is, and all the rest of that. So that, it feels to me like that's where this thing got bogged down, and maybe some feelings got a little ruffled, because now you've got Jerry saying the things he's saying, you've got Micah retweeting J.J. Watt. It feels like, I'm not trying to say this thing has gotten ugly, because we've seen ugly negotiations and they don't look like this, but I feel like it's taken a little bit of a turn.
You saw J.J. Watt's tweet. You saw Micah Parsons retweet,
right,
which is that he agrees that. You hear what our guys are saying about what a player would feel like if he were in that locker room. There hasn't been a lot of warmth there, and it seems to be taking on a more embattled tone. Now, I guess this is the case with any contract negotiation, whether it's Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati or Terry McLaurin in Washington or Micah Parsons in Dallas. Until it's done, there's every possibility that's going to be unpleasant. Right. But not only is it unpleasant in Dallas, but it's incredibly slow moving in Dallas.
I mean, I'm half joking when I say that Jerry Jones really enjoys this, and so that's why he stretches it out. But I'm often like confused at how surprised they are at something that seems inevitable. When you draft someone in the first round, you're anticipating signing them to an extension 4 or 5 years from now. So why they seem continuously surprised by it when someone who you draft in the first round shows up and is immediately one of the best defensive players in football.
Well, the smartest teams typically draft that player, identify that player as somebody who's going to make it, and then when he is first eligible for a contract after 3 years, sign him to that contract. Again, not that the Jets have always been a model for consistency and stability, but what did they do last week? They signed 2 players from the same draft class in Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, who they identified as players that they want to keep, build around, and have for a long time. As soon as they were contract eligible, they got deals done. I think we all could agree about the type of player that Micah Parsons is. We all could agree that Dallas wants him to be there for the long term. So what is the wait? Yes, he could be hit by a bus. Yes, he could miss games. Yes, all those things could conceivably happen. Yeah. But he's Micah Parsons. Yeah. He is a great player you want to keep.
Let's face it, if Micah Parsons got hit by a bus, I'd feel sorry for the bus. But can we put up C11, please? Because it's worth pointing out, Vegas thinks the Cowboys stink. And I don't agree, but their win total this year is the 7.5, which is their lowest win total since 2003. They're 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. They're 25-1 to win the NFC. Both of those are their worst in more than a decade. They're actually favored to miss the playoffs at minus 240. And the last time I checked this, which granted was a few weeks ago, but I'm sure it hasn't changed that much, they're the 4th longest odds of any team in the NFC to wind up in the Super Bowl. Now, I don't see it that way. I think this is a good team. I think that people are selling them short. Every time that Dak Prescott has been healthy, this team has won double-digit games, and despite a tough schedule, despite a good division, I think this team is that. So it doesn't need this nonsense in July here, and if you really do aggravate Micah Parsons, the one thing we know about Mike, he'll talk about it, right? Lord knows, if you find a microphone, he's willing to talk about it. So I don't know, I don't like the direction this thing is taking.
I mean, I think it's the if that you mentioned, and over the past few seasons, like, Dak Prescott hasn't been completely healthy. So I think that's factored into the number. Sure. If you could guarantee to Vegas that Dak Prescott is going to be healthy for 16 games like he was, or 17 games like he was in 2023, he put together an MVP caliber season. So I'm assuming that they're factoring that in, because you're right, the talent itself would suggest that they would make it.
Well, there once was a time, as you know, we can't count on that, because Jerry did make a player the highest paid player in the entire NFL, and he didn't play the whole season. Dak Prescott. We all know about that. Okay, so we'll leave the Cowboys there for the moment. We'll see if anything further happens.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn. Là mình đây. Là mình sẽ các bạn những sản phẩm cắt dán đẹp hơn những này. Tuyệt vời. Bông cà sữa này. Đây, đây là một đây. Keo sang đây. Và để tạo ra những sản phẩm cắt để tạo ra những video cắt dán đẹp như thế này, mình sẽ cần có dụng cụ đo vành tạo nên này trước mặt của mình đây. Trên đây mình đang cặp này là những giấy công bậc các bạn. Nó rất nhiều màu sắc luôn, các bạn nhìn thấy màu sắc của nó. Đây mình đang cặp này màu xanh này, xanh là lá cây, vàng này, đây là màu đỏ, giấy màu cam, giấy màu xanh, rất nhiều sản phẩm màu sắc. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm đẹp và ý nghĩa thì mình cần có một cái bút, chiếc kéo này, kéo để cắt, có dán thì dán những sản phẩm vào nhau để cho nó đa dạng màu sắc, tạo được điểm nhấn cho sản phẩm. Và còn những dụng cụ hỗ trợ cho mình là chân điểm điện thoại, chân nhật để chiếc điện thoại để quay quá trình tạo ra video để hỗ trợ ánh sáng này. Hỗ trợ ánh sáng. Và kênh của mình thì cũng rất may mắn đã nhận được nút bảng từ YouTube các bạn này. Trên nút bảng này mình đã nhận được khoảng thời gian ở đây là nó là thành quả của mình nha. Rất chi là mãn các bạn này. Tạo ra những sản phẩm viral đây. Sau khi mình cắt dán xong video, mình sẽ tải video lên máy tính của mình nha. Trên máy tính của mình thì có phần mềm Camtasia, mình sẽ ưu tiên chương trình Camtasia. Khi mình edit và chỉnh sửa xong thì mình sẽ xuất ra thôi, xuất ra và đăng lên kênh cho các bạn xem. Các bạn hãy chào đón video đẹp và tuyệt vời. Tập cái đợi các bạn nha. Và bây giờ mình sẽ mời các bạn đi xem mình tạo ra những sản phẩm này nha. Các bạn hãy cùng theo dõi mình tạo ra sản phẩm nha.
Bây giờ mình sẽ cắt dán cho các bạn nha.
Rất nhiều này sang phía sau có đi thì đi điều này không phía sau đi chúng này không làm được bảo vệ cho nên là cái chủ nhật thì đây mình cứ bảo có đến giờ nó là nó kiểu như mình 7 giờ sáng là sở những mặc định cái đồ như vậy thì nó đi nó là khi thì là mình phải